Hello everyone, this is Professor Robert Solis. Welcome to this video lesson. We're going to be talking about a selection structure lab using the if, else if statement, talking about percent style. In essence, we're creating a grade book where the user will enter in 5 quiz scores. They're going to click the calculate button and then it's going to give us all kinds of data. So this is what the form looks like before, this is what it looks like after. And so we're going to add all the quiz scores. We're going to determine what their percent is with only 2 numbers after the decimal point and also a percent symbol. We'll determine what the letter grade is, and then we'll find out what the minimum score and also what the maximum score is, and go from there. Okay, so it looks like here are all the requirements, and here's the usage of the if statement. Now, the idea is that the if statement is not just simply if else. There's also in between else if. And we call this a multi-way if statement. In other words, if this is true, no, how about this? No, how about this? No, how about this? Finally, well, if all the above else is false, then do this. And that's how the else if statement works in any language. So you're just going to go down the line and notice how I have a score where I'm checking, or a percent where I'm checking 0.9, then 0.8, 0.7. So it's in a decrementing order. This is one strategy that we can use for determining if the score is equivalent to an A or a B or a C, so forth and so on. Okay? All right, so let's switch over to Visual Studio, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. And Windows Forms application, so this is going to be CSharp. And this will be Lab07. Alright, so I'm going to open up the toolbox and the form opens up, and it looks like I'll need to drag and drop a button, a label, and a text box. So with the toolbox open, we'll drag and drop a button, a label, and also a text box. And I'm going to select these 3 items and give a font size of 12 points. Good. Now let's go to the preview. It looks like I have a label and then a text box right below it for 5 quizzes. Okay, so let me go ahead and select this label, move it to the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to open up the Properties panel, and then I'll say Quiz 1, like that. And then I'm going to put a text box underneath it, resize it, looks pretty good. Let me select these 2, copy and paste, Control-C, Control-V as in Victor. Put them next to each other. Control-V as in Victor for another paste. And I'm going to keep on pasting until I have a total of 5 quizzes. Looks like I'm going to need to open up the form a little bit. And then a final paste, Control-V as in Victor. Good. Now let's go ahead and make it so that this is quiz 2 through 5. So I'm selecting each of the different labels, making sure that I have quizzes 1 through quiz 5. So this is going to be quiz 5. All right, and now we have a calculate button underneath. So let's put this guy over here, make that a little bigger. The text property is going to be calculate. Okay, and then I have these labels. Now these are labels. These are also labels over here with the 3D background. So let's switch over to Visual Studio, and I'll just simply take this label, copy and paste it. And let me see here. It looks like the longest of all the labels is this one right here, letter grade. So I will make this text letter grade. And the reason why I'm doing that is because if I'm able to set up everything for the longest label, then obviously all the smaller labels will be accommodated. Okay, so that says letter grade. I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to copy and paste it. Now, this has to look like kind of like a text box, but it's not a text box, obviously, it's a label. But it has to look like a text box in terms of the size, and we're going to change the width, obviously. Okay, so first of all, in order for me to change the size, I'm going to have to take this auto size property and change that to false. Now, I want to make sure that there's a border style, not a fixed single, but of this guy over here, fixed 3D. All right, let's make it so that this is going to be the same height as this text box. So remember, source destination. We select the source, hold down shift. We select the destination, and then we get these items over here. And the one that we want is where the height is the same. So let's see, what's this? It says centers. No, how about this guy? Make vertical spacing equal. Yep, that's what I want right here. Well, actually, I want make vertical size. So let's see here. I'm just going to hover on top of this over here. Make same height. That's what I want. So I'm going to click that. Perfect. Now I can select this guy, and the magenta underline is what I'm wanting. I'm going to expand the width, and then I'm going to get rid of the text. Get rid of the text over here. All right, perfect. So now I could just take these two and copy and paste them. And what do I need? 1, 2, 3, 4 more of these. Okay, so copy and paste. So that's 1, 2, 3, and Control V, 4 of these like that. And now let's go ahead and change the text property. So this should be total, percent. Okay, so this is supposed to be total. This is supposed to be percent. And then letter grade, then min score and max score. Okay, so min score, and this one over here is max score. Good. Now I can reduce the size of the form. Let's do it like this. I don't think I want the minimize or the maximize button, so let's go ahead and get rid of those. So minimize box and maximize box, we'll set those both to false. And instead of form 1, what is this supposed to say? Grade book. Okay. So instead of form 1, we'll say grade book. Looks good. All right, at this point we're ready for the names, but let me first of all save all. And let's go back over here, and on the requirements it says, okay, TXT quiz 1 through quiz 5. Okay, so we'll select this guy over here, and we're going to change the name property to TXT quiz 1. And I'm going to grab this part and copy, enter, and then that way I can just paste. So over here, I'll just say this is quiz 2. Select this guy, select all this, paste quiz 3, TXT quiz 3. This is going to be TXT quiz 4. And then finally we'll have this text box. We select all this, TXT quiz 5. Okay. The button is supposed to be BTN calculate. Okay. So select the button, BTN calculate. And what do we have over here? LBL total, LBL percent, LBL ready, letter grade rather, and then LBL min score and max score. Okay, so basically what these things represent. So this is going to be LBL total. And then this guy over here, LBL percent. And then we have LBL letter grade. And then LBL min score. And then we have LBL max score. Okay, save my work. And I don't need the toolbox anymore. I don't need the properties panel anymore. I am now ready to double click on the calculate button so that I can go into the code area. Well, now that I'm in the code area, let me go ahead and type in my comments. So I have declarations, get user input, calculation or sums, and then of course the output section. All right, so it says here that the total is supposed to be the sum of all the students' quiz scores. Okay, so first of all, do I have any declaration requirements over here? Yes, I do. It says we want local variables, quizzes 1 through quiz 5. So let me create those. And it says here, let's see here, does it say what they're supposed to be, integers or doubles? Declare the following variables. So here they are, but it doesn't say anything about like what the type is supposed to be, I don't think. Is there anything about whole numbers over here? Real or whole numbers. Okay, so then we're going to create these as doubles. So quiz 1, so we'll say double, quiz 1. I'm going to copy and paste this. copy, Control C, paste, paste, 4, 5. Okay. Now I got to change those 1s to 2, 3, 4, 5. So what I'll do is over here where it says Insert, I'll double click to turn this to Overwrite. And then I'll type in a 2, arrow down, arrow to the left, 3, arrow down, arrow to the left, 4, arrow down, arrow to the left, 5. Let me take off the override mode by double clicking it. Now I'm back in the insert mode. So that's a cool little tool if you want to do something like these quick changes here. Let me do it really fast to show you how cool this is. I'm going to double click over here where it says overwrite. And so watch this how fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, that was so fast that I made a mistake. But you get the idea. Let me double click override. Or overwrite. Okay, let's see here. Then total and percent. Okay, so we'll say double total, double percent. What else do I have? Letter grade. Okay, obviously that's going to be a string. So we'll say string letter grade. And then min score and max score. So those will be doubles. So min score. And then double max score. All right, so I have all of the variables, and now I can get the user data. So first of all, let me put a semicolon over here. And let me get rid of that extra space. And in terms of the user input, well, those are going to be coming from the text boxes. So I'm going to convert dot to double whatever is inside of the text box, quiz1 dot text. And then I'm going to do the same thing for quiz 2 through 5. So I'll just take this guy over here, copy 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And I'll go back into this overwrite mode so that I can type in 2, 3, 4, 5. Same thing over here. 2, 3, 4, 5. Double click on the overwrite mode so that we get out of that. And okay, so I've obtained all of the user input from the text boxes, and now we're ready for the calculation. So the first thing it says here is that total, let's see, where does it say? Here it is. Total is going to be the sum of all the student quizzes. Okay, so total is going to be quiz 1 plus quiz 2. And in fact, why don't I just go ahead and copy and paste this. This will be quiz 3, quiz 4, quiz 5, and I'll put a semicolon. I'm going to double click on overwrite and make this a 3, make this a 4, and this one a 5. So it just helps me to type the code a little bit quicker, but I got to be careful because I could easily, create some errors and propagate errors, and I don't want to do that. Okay, what else am I supposed to do? Percent. This is a real number that is represented as a percent. Okay, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's some additional criteria here about only 2 numbers after the decimal point, and it has to be in percent style. Well, it says represented as a percent. Over here, you see that there's only 2 numbers after that. So let's do this. Okay, so first of all, the percent is supposed to be whatever the student score is divided by the total possible. So percent is going to be whatever the total is, which is the student total, divided by whatever's possible. And I think, is there a mention about how 100 is the maximum with quiz? Let's see here. So I'm looking over here, and I didn't say that, but the idea is that 100 is the maximum that a student could get for a quiz. So if there's 5 quizzes, then 500 would be the maximum that a student could get, and this is going to give you the percent. Okay, now that's hard coding. So I don't like that, and even though I didn't tell you that I didn't want you to hard code, we really shouldn't be doing that. So let me go ahead and create a constant double, and I'll say, max quiz scores or something like that, and we'll set that to 500. And then I'm going to take this constant and replace this 500 with the constant. That way I don't get in trouble with hard coding, which could lead to problems. Let's say, for example, that the user says, oh, I only want you to determine the score for 5 quizzes, say, for example, or 3 or 7. And if I type a number here, then that gets me into trouble, whereas I can, over here, just simply replace what that number is. And it fixes It basically follows through for the entire program. Okay, so that's percent. What else do I have? Letter grade. Okay, so the letter grade is going to be based on the percent. So if the percent is greater than or equal to 0.9. Now notice that's not in percent form, this is in decimal form, because percents are nothing more than decimals, right? So if that's the case, then the letter grade is going to be A. Else if the percent is greater than or equal to 0.8, then the letter grade is going to be B. So this is the example of a multi-way if statement. So I have a bunch of else if statements to consider all these other possibilities. So I'm going to copy this and consider for C, D. Okay, so let me go back into this overwrite mode. So we'll say if the score or the percent is greater than or equal to 70% or 0.7, then that's a C. If it's greater than or equal to 0.6, then you're going to get a D. And then finally, let me get out of this overwrite mode. Finally, if all of the above is false, then your letter grade is going to be F. Just like that. And don't forget the semicolon. Okay, so what this does is says, hey, is this score greater than or equal to 90 or the percent greater than or equal to 95? You can give them an A, and it skips over everything else, jumps out. So only one of these 5 choices can be selected. If I get an 87, okay, is percent greater than 90%? No, okay. How about this? Is it greater than or equal to 80? And since I know it's not greater than or equal to 90, what I'm really asking is it greater than or equal to 80? And of course, it has to be less than 90. Otherwise, this would have been true. So if I got an 87, yeah, that's greater than or equal to 0.8. So therefore, your letter grade is a B. And then from here, we jump out and go to the next programming statement. So in other words, only one of these if statements can be true. And if every single one of these is false, then you have an else statement over here that says, hey, if everything above is false, then at the very least do this. Do I have to have an else statement? No, I could have just left it like this. So I do this because I want to give the student an F if they did not get a percent greater than or equal to 60. So this is an easy way for me to do this. I could have done this. Else if the percent is less than 60, then letter grade is equal to F, or it's going to be assigned F. So this is another possibility. And as you can see here, I don't need the else statement. Okay, so now that we've got all this, let's see here, determine what the percent is. What else do I need to determine? The min score. Okay, sorry, I'm not finished. I need to determine what the min score is. So over here, min score is going to be what? Okay, well, it's going to be the smaller of all of these quiz scores right here. Which one's the least one? So there is this tool called min. And let's see here, math.min. Here it is. And it finds the minimum of 2 numbers. So let me put a parentheses. What is the minimum of quiz 1, comma, and quiz 2? Okay, so this will find the minimum of quiz 1 and quiz 2, but I've got to find the minimum of 5 quizzes. Well, watch this. We're going to use a trick. Instead of this, quiz 2, we'll say, what is the minimum of, put my cursor back over here, quiz 1, or quiz 2 rather, and quiz 3. So notice what happens first. You know in math how you're supposed to do the inner parentheses. So here's the inner parentheses. So you do this first. What is the minimum of quiz 1 and quiz 3? Quiz 2 and quiz 3 rather. And whatever that happens to be, then I can compare that with the minimum of quiz 1 and whatever the smaller of these two are. So this type of substitution method, we can use this to our advantage. Even though mathmin only allows you to put in 2 variables, you can substitute it in this manner. So I'll just do the same thing over here, math.min, and this is going to be quiz 3, and comparing that with quiz 4, but really I can replace that quiz 4, math.min, and quiz 4, and quiz 5. So what I'm doing is I'm going to compare the smaller of the two, give me whatever the smaller of these two, then compare that with quiz 3 and find the smaller. Then compare that with quiz 2 and find the smaller. Then compare that with quiz 1 and find the smaller. So when this is all done, I'm going to have the minimum score. So this is a technique for using math.min, which only allows you to put in 2 arguments. That's okay. We can just do this type of substitution method to find out the smaller of these 5. And I can, in fact, I'll do the same thing with the maximum. So let me just copy this. Select it first, Control C, and we're going to say max score over here. Max score. Okay, but instead of the word min, we'll put max. So max. And let me copy this, Control C, and replace all of the min functions with math max functions. Okay, so the maximum of these, maximum, maximum, maximum. Yep. So when we're finished, we're going to find the maximum of all the scores. Okay, and I think that's it. So we were able to solve for all this stuff. Now let's go ahead and display all the results in the output section. So the first thing is to display the total. Okay, so LBL total is going to be, and we don't forget, we need to convert to a string and then whatever the total is. Because total is a number. Looks like it's a double. So I'm going to convert that double to a string so I can put it into the string or text property of the label, total. What's the next thing to do? Percent. Okay, now notice, 2 numbers after the decimal point and also a percent symbol. So we're going to do things a little bit differently. For this guy, we'll do this. We'll say LBL percent dot text is going to be assigned, and then I'll say percent, which is the variable that we created up here, and we solved for it, dot to string P2. So what that P means is display this thing in a percent style. Oh, and by the way, 2 numbers after the decimal point. So it's a different form of toString, which allows me to create some unique formatting. Okay, and then letter grade, that's easy. So the letter grade, LBL letter grade dot text is going to be whatever the letter grade is. And I don't have to do any type of conversion because this thing is already a string. Okay, let's see here. How about, wait, why is this thing red? Use of unassigned local variable. Oh, okay. The reason why this is coming up is it's saying that there's a potential that I may not have assigned letter grade. And the reason why that's happening is because over here I didn't give it an initial value. So I usually do this. I give strings an initial value of nothing so that it prevents this red squiggle underline from happening. They were the Visual Studio integrated development environment is saying you haven't given an initial value to letter grade, and it may very well be that this if statement that none of these are true, so that there's still no value. So it gives me that error, and all I have to do to fix it is just simply say, okay, I'm going to give you a value, just a value of nothing, blank, and then no problem. Okay, min score. Okay, so LBL min score dot text, and we're going to convert dot to string whatever the variable min score is, and same thing for max score. LBL max score dot text. We'll say convert dot to string whatever max score is, and then semicolon. Save my work. Let's see what happens. So let me start the program. Give it a second to compile. And let's go ahead and enter some variables, or some numbers, I should say. So let's see here. How about like 99.5, 95.2. I'm just typing in random numbers, 80, and 75, say for example. Calculate. Okay, so here the total is this, the percent is this, the letter grade is this, the min score is 75. Is that really the smallest of all these? Yep, there it is, 75. The max score is 99.5. Yep, that's correct. Looking good. Let's see here. Let me open up the calculator. Calculator, yeah, there it is. Man, you don't have to be so big. Make it a little bit smaller here. Okay. All right, let's see here, 99.5 plus 95.2 plus 78.5 plus 80 plus 75. So the sum should be 428.2. Good. Let me divide this by 500 to find out what the percent is, which is 85.64. Yep, 85.64. And then, of course, that's a letter B. Good. So our program works. You see how we are supposed to use the formatting style here to get the percentage, two numbers after the decimal point. The usage of the multi-way if statement. Yeah, this is a good lab. So this is it. So this is Professor Robert Solis. I hope this video lesson was helpful. Have a good day. See you next time.